everyone. So we're missing two. So would the Lord Mayor like to be co-opted? We've got an apology from Councillor Sherlock.
I'm happy to move we co-opt the Deputy and the Lord Mayor if we need to this meeting, Chair.
The Deputy Lord Mayor is already a member.
Oh, sorry, Helen.
That's okay.
So we've got a motion to seek co-option of the Lord Mayor. Those in favour say aye, those against say no. The ayes have it. Thank you. Hopefully it's a short meeting. Confirmation of minutes.
Moved.
Thank you very much, Alderman Thomas. Those in favour say aye, those against say no. The ayes have it. There's no supplementary items. Any indications of pecuniary and conflicts of interest? I think my rowing days are over, so I don't think I've got any conflict of interest there. Transfer of agenda items. Okay, so the first report is the Sandy Bay Rowing Club request for extension of a lease footprint. Now, I open the item for discussion, but the first question that I asked, nowhere in the report is the indication of how many square metres they're asking extra. Can someone answer that? Even if it's roughly?
Perhaps Mr. Avery can give us an idea, Chairman. While he's gathering his thoughts, the existing lease is the building footprint, and page 8 of the agenda has a plan there. And the proposed extension is the land area beyond the building, which is shaded. Mr. Avery or Mr. Fisher, have you got an indication of the size of that?
Through the chair, no, sorry, I don't really. I can probably arrange to measure it up and get that information to you if you need that, but no, I'm not 100% sure exactly how large that is as far as square metres go.
We'll probably need it for advertising, won't we? It's not insignificant.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, as part of our requirements under the Local Government Act, we'd mark on that plan the square metre size of it.
Yep, and so they don't intend to stop pedestrian access, only vehicular access. Is that correct? Yep. Okay, would someone like any further comments, and would someone like to move the item?
Yeah, I've just got a couple of questions.
Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor.
My question was around the access, as you suggest, Chair. So whether that, we don't want to sort of privatise the area at the same time, given it doesn't look like it's any sort of building area. It looks like the landscaping and so forth. But I suppose that's one question. The other question is relating to our requirements, given that is low-lying land, and surely we can lease low-lying, let low-lying land. But is there any sort of responsibility we have as landowners?
Over to you, Director, I think.
Yeah, Chairman, for the first question first, the issue that the club has experienced in the past, Deputy, has been vehicles actually parking in front of their building and restricting access to their rowing ways and an inability to actually get their craft into the water. So what they want to do is provide some restrictions in terms of vehicular access, but there's certainly no intention to restrict public access. In terms of the low-lying nature of the property, I mean, I don't know. Perhaps Mr. Avery, we certainly have a clause there that the Chief Executive Officer be authorised to finalise the terms and conditions of the lease. Maybe, Deputy, what we need to do is look at our standard lease documentation and ensure there's a clause that recognises any potential future impact as a result of climate change that can be progressively rolled into all leases that are foreshore related. Has Mr. Fisher or Mr. Avery got a comment in that regard?
Through the chair, no, but Glenn, I do agree with you. At this point in time, our leases don't include that clause, but we do have a number of leases, including 3 on this little peninsula alone, which that would be relevant to. So I think it's probably a good idea, worth noting something like that in the standard lease agreement.
So Deputy, we've certainly heard you, and as a part of the Chief Executive Officer having that authority to negotiate the terms and conditions, I think we'll get some legal advice as to what appropriate terms should be included in all our foreshore leases as we move on from a liability point of view.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments, Lord Mayor?
Yes, just I'm just wondering, is there any risk that they'll still park vehicles in this area, but just for their own vehicles, and then we'll get this sort of criticism that we've kind of facilitated a private car park?
Well, I mean, Lord Mayor, given that they're looking at leasing the area, they in essence they could park their vehicles there whilst they're using it. What we've been very clear on, though, is that they can't restrict public access to it, particularly when it's not in use. The issue we've got at the moment, if you like, is a conflict of use between the public using it and them trying to gain access from their building into the water. So it is quite possible that whilst they are there rowing, they will have boats and vehicles and other stuff on that outside area, because that's the reason that they want to extend that leased footprint. So that is a risk. But I guess we could, and I mean, we need to be careful because they've asked us to lease the area. If we were to then turn around and say, well, you can only lease it for various times, it'd start to get really difficult to manage.
Yeah, but I think we need to be conscious that, this is public foreshore, and in a sense, probably it's all for very good purpose, and it'll be managed and used in the right way. But I guess I'm just wondering, if you got the wrong, if this is a long lease and you got the wrong people and they started going, well, give us the key and this is our sort of little private car park, and it gets used. I mean, should we actually say that that vehicles can only be parked on the foreshore area for the purposes of delivering and removing boats, rather than it being sort of general? Because you could basically find everybody parks there, and you've clogged up your little bit of public foreshore with parents just, I want to park right at the doorstep, and it ends up being a little sort of waterfront car park.
Look, we could say something like boat retrieval and boat
delivery and retrieval.
Yeah, that's something like that. I think you're right. Otherwise, it may well become just a club car park. So I think that's right. Boat launching and retrievals. Vehicles needed for boat launching and retrieval. I agree with the Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Alderman Thomas. Any further comments?
Chairman, if I could, and look, obviously we're in committee's hands, but I guess what I would say is they are leasing the area. So we need to be really careful the restrictions we put on this, because to be frank with you, I haven't got the resources to police that. So we just need to be careful that we don't set up an arrangement that the governance and policing of will become massive in terms of implementation and management. But if you want that incorporated, I understand.
I think I'd prefer to, given it is a public foreshore, I know you can't necessarily police it, but I think it's about setting out what our preferred use for the area.
I suppose, Lord Mayor, the purpose is they want to beautify the area. The city hasn't got any budgets to beautify the area. and there'll be seats which will be available to the public when the rowing club are not using it. And certainly there's no indication that they're going to fence the area, and we probably wouldn't allow them to fence the area except the bollards for stop the traffic. So all I can say, I see a benefit for the users of the foreshore, and there are 2 other groups there anyway who've got buildings which presumably we use the same area in times when the rowing club's not using it. So in a way, it gives them a bit of certainty if they spend some money on landscaping. And I noticed that part 5, the director has made a comment, the landscaping plan will have to be approved by the director. So I think the director of city amenities. So I think that's a safeguard to us as well, the city as well. Would someone like to move the
Happy to move
on the books? Thank you, Alderman Thomas, and with the understanding that the director will look at an extra clause in the lease if legal. And I don't think we should insist on it because we haven't got legal advice in front of us, or the director has indicated some issues involved in restricting. Yeah.
So, sorry, was that an amendment from Alderman Thomas or just the recommendation?
I think the director has taken it on board. Is that correct, Director?
So, Chairman, what I've heard is as part of 3, in terms of the negotiation and development of the lease, there are 2 items the committee would like me to include. One is recognition of future impact by climate change, given the low-lying nature of the land, and the other thing is a clause that restricts vehicular access to those associated with launching and retrieval of the boats. So we can certainly take that on board and have those clauses included in the lease documentation.
And I think that given our relationship with the rowing club, that they would certainly get the message that it's really for the public access continues, and perhaps as the Lord Mayor has said, that the parking is restricted. I mean, I think that could be a part of a conversation rather than necessarily part of the recommendation.
Good, thank you. So I intend to put the recommendation moved by Alderman Thomas. Now, is there any dissent in that? Being no dissent, I declare the motion carried unanimously. We move on to the next item, which is item 6.2, the Clare Street Oval, Newtown, change room and toilets. Would any director would like to make a comment about this? It's an admirable project.
Happy to briefly, Chairman. I think anyone that knows this particular facility as it exists at the moment would know that it's particularly substandard. There's been some excellent work undertaken by Mr. Fisher and Avery's team here to secure funding which will enable facilities that will provide the appropriate level of change rooms for both genders who utilise the Oval. It provides us with very much improved public toilet access, disabled access, but as I say, in particular, gives us full functionality in terms of the various genders that use that facility. We've gone through a process and consulted with the clubs quite extensively. We've got the funding now lined up, and certainly council's endorsed this as part of the budget development, and we are ready to lodge the actual planning permit, but we wanted to get the sign off from committee as the landlord in the first instance. Happy to take any questions.
Any questions, Deputy?
Chairman, I'm happy to move this. It looks like another good upgrade. Just a couple of questions. So are these toilets also available to the public when matches aren't on? And how are we going with the Newtown sports precinct as well, as far as any movement on that plan goes?
Well, look, perhaps I'll deal with Newtown first, and then I'll throw to Mr. Avery in terms of the specifics on this one. Newtown, we are continuing to work with the group. As you know, Deputy, we are working with the various stakeholders out at Newtown. We have a concept plan. There was still some work the stakeholders had to do in terms of reaching an agreement between themselves in terms of various directions out there. And I know they're being particularly active in pursuing funding opportunities. We've done some more work out there ourselves, and we're actually taking advantage of any internal funding or external funding we can get our hands on to progressively sort of head towards the implementation of the master plan. But there are some big elements. One of the things, and Mr. Avery or Fisher can help me out here, but one of the things that is being looked at now is the future of the bowl screens, which is sort of the next element of the Newtown precinct plan. Perhaps what we could do, Deputy, is provide a report for the next Parks meeting on an update on where all that's at. Might be the best way to perhaps deal with that one. Would you be happy with that?
Sounds good.
All right. Shannon, in terms of access, I understand this will be public toilets available to the community outside of when, or in addition to when the ground's being used. Is that correct?
Yeah, through the chair, that's correct. There's 3 new toilets which will be available. One of them will be fully accessible, which we don't have currently at the ground at the moment, and those toilets will be available for use. Basically, we'll probably lock them overnight like we do with most of our toilets, but outside of those times they'll be available.
Excellent, thanks.
Thank you. Any further comments?
I'm happy to move it,
you
Chair,
have
if it
moved
hasn't
it,
been.
haven't you, Deputy? You've moved the recommendation. Being no further comment, I put that. Is there any dissent? No dissent. I declare the motion carried unanimously. I go on to item 7, which is the committee actions status report. Someone like to receive and note it?
Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Thomas. Any dissent? If I put the motion, those in favour say aye. Yep, no dissent, so we move on. That motion's carried unanimously. We're up to questions without notice, I think. Question without notice. Any questions without notice, Lord Mayor?
The responses?
Oh,
Yes?
responses.
Yeah.
Move those.
Oh, sorry. I beg your pardon. I've jumped over. Belinda usually calls me up there. So yeah, thank you, Deputy. I put that. Is there any dissent? No dissent. I declare that carried unanimously. Sorry about that. I was thinking I might get a record here of a short meeting. So question about notice, Lord Mayor.
Yes, I've got 2. The first one is, can the director arrange for the Wellington Park Management Trust to brief the Parks Committee on the draft recreation and visitation strategy, and also ask them to advise us when the strategy will be released for public consultation?
Thanks, Chair. I'm happy to take that question on notice and extend the invitation to the Trust accordingly.
Thank you. And then the second question was, can the director advise which parks have permanent soccer goals with nets for community use? And what are the costs and barriers to having more of these?
Okay, happy to take it on notice. Just for clarity, Chairman. So which sporting fields have soccer fixtures as permanent fixtures, Lord Mayor? Is that the question?
Yeah, that's right. So soccer goals with nets that are sort of available for community use, not necessarily club use.
Happy to take that on notice, Chairman.
Good. Any further questions without notice? Is that a question without notice, Deputy?
No.
Okay, that concludes the open meeting. So we need a motion to go to close.